Good morning, everybody. I have a project that I'm working on, and I thought I would share with you. A friend of mine, a dear friend, someone I love and respect, asked me to reproduce a mug for them. It's a mug that she bought years ago, and it was originally a set, and she's down to one, and she just loves the mug. So asked me if I could make it for her. And my experience as a potter is I can do a lot of different forms, and sometimes I can sit down and do something from sight. But typically, when someone asks me to reproduce something, I'm a little wary of that because I haven't made every shape in the book, and it does take time and practice to really own each form. So I want to talk to you a little bit today about the process that I went through to reproduce this mug for my friend. And I'm going to develop a form and offer it as for sale in my shop. So it's worth the work for me. But you're going to get to see everything I need to do to reproduce one item that would be a really expensive investment for one-off. So when you come to me and you say, I love this piece, can you reproduce it for me? And I give you an outrageous quote. You're going to see what I have to put into it to make an item that is as close as possible to what you're asking me to do. Now there's several factors. So first of all, there is, how was the original piece made? So the mug that I'm reproducing for my friend appears to be a slip cast mug. So that design was a little bit challenging to sit down and do in a wheel thrown form. It's also going to require some work after it's thrown to come close to the surface design. So there's how the original piece was made. There's the clay body itself, so what kind of clay was it made out of? That can affect the weight of it. For instance, if you bring a porcelain piece to me, I work primarily in stoneware, so my forms are going to be a little bit more robust. I can't produce a translucent piece. If you want me to produce it in porcelain, it's going to be really expensive because I don't work with porcelain, I don't fire with porcelain, I don't have glazes that fit on porcelain. So then there's the color of an item, so you're going to end up with whatever I have in my studio glazes, or if you want me to mix a special color for you, that's a time and money investment also. And then there's basically the skill involved in it. So if there's a lot of fiddly little pieces, or you want me to reproduce an intricate design, I may or may not be able to do that for you. So enough of me talking. I just want to share my process and what I went through before I even touched the clay. So let's turn this around. Okay, so up on my workstation here, you'll see I've taken a photo of the mug, and I took the photo and went from this sketch, which was the size of the mug that my friend drew for me, and then I extrapolated that to the photo and enlarged it to account for my clay shrinkage, so that when I make the piece in wet clay and it shrinks through firing, it'll end up being the same size as the original, hopefully. I also, you can see that it's got an unusual handle, and I do not make handles like that typically, because I like a handle that is below the rim, so I can flip my mugs upside down in the cupboard and they'll sit flat. So I'm learning how to do a mug handle that sits above the rim. And I needed to look at proportion, so the rim and base compared to the belly of the mug, and just the general shape of it. So I took all that information and then I measured it with a ruler. So I've got my handy ruler here, and when I was throwing, I was checking the size of the piece. So let's come over here, and you'll see that I've tried it out in two different clay bodies. So I've got my studio white clay, and you can see as I went through, they're different shapes, they're different sizes. So this detail here, the cords, I guess, top and bottom, I had to make a tool for that. So I don't own this form yet. So when I feel like I own a form, it's when I can reproduce it, and all of the pieces look like they are brothers and sisters, not just distantly related cousins. So I'd say that these guys here are cousins. Now I did the red clay pieces on the second day, and I'm much more happy with those. The belly. Now the red clay is just a little bit easier to throw with too. So I did 28 mug bodies anyway. 14 in white and 14 in red. And hopefully my friend will be able to pick out one of those that most closely resembles the one that she's familiar with. So let's talk about the tools that I made. So here are the tools I made to do the ropes or cords on the top and bottom. So this is the second one that actually worked out. The first one I made. So here's the first one. And it was just asking the clay to do too much. It was bringing those pieces out too far. So this worked the best. So I measured this area here to be near the lip. And then that way I have a consistent space between the lip of the mug and that first cord. And then the handle will attach in between the two cords and then come up above the rim of the mug. And then I flip it over to do the base of the mug. So this required me figuring out what material I needed and finding it, and then going ahead and using my Dremel tool. And I measured. So if you look on here, hopefully you can see that that's pretty close to the drawing, and that's what I was going for. And because I want to be able to make a consistent handle, normally my mugs, again, they look like they're all in the same distant family, but I don't usually do exact repetitions. So this handle needs to attach specifically at that point in between those two cords, and then it also has to, be a consistent weight. So what I've done here is I've cut out an extruder die. So I haven't tested this yet. This is still in research and development. So I cut this at home last night, and I'm going to try the handles today. I still have time. My mugs are quite wet, so if the handle die doesn't work out, I can go home and go back to the drawing board. So there's the tool for the handle. And this is another aspect I want to talk about too. When I'm duplicating a design that comes from somewhere else. Let me turn this around and talk to you for a second. So if I'm duplicating a design that comes from someone else or somewhere else, I want to make it my own. So this, I feel pretty safe in this, in that it was made many, many years ago, and it's from a slip cast mold. So I'm throwing it decades later. So hopefully I'm not going to be stepping on anybody's design toes. I've made my tools. I'm bringing it close to the original, but I'm not exactly, there's going to have enough differences to it. So I feel like as potters, there's nothing new under the sun. Everything has been done before. But if you are going to take a form from another potter or another era or another culture, or really anything that you didn't dream up in your own head that's completely original, which is really hard to do, by the way, it's important to take aspects of that and develop your own vocabulary with that. So also here is, so let me turn you around again. And then my friend also sent me a broken piece of a mug that she wanted me to reproduce. So this color, I do not have this color exactly. So let's go over and look at my glaze selection. And that's another thing. Whenever I mix a glaze, it requires pretty extensive testing. So I can't just make something and go ahead and use it. It's a little more complicated than that. So where is that? Here we go. This is, I showed this to my friend already, and here is the closest I have in my studio glazes that are tested. So this is a little bit lighter. And of course, this is on a darker clay than what I use. I don't know if you can see that, but my studio clay is quite white, and this one here is tan, so that's going to affect the color response of the glaze also. So that's what we've got going on. If someone wanted me to get closer to this, that's going to require several firings and testing different recipes. And then once I get a recipe that gives me the color response I need, then I would need to mix a larger batch and test it for durability on my pots, whether it's going to cause any problems, drip, crack, craze. You know, there's all kinds of things that can go wrong with glazes. And I don't use commercial glazes, but if I did, even if I could go and buy something off the shelf that was closer to this color, I would still have to test it on my clay body and make sure it's going to work for for the functional project. So, let me turn this back around again. So that is my process to make, to reproduce a piece. So you can see that there's a lot of love and care that goes into that. And I know that as potters, I've talked to a lot of potters, and people typically will do that. They'll see you're a potter, they'll see your work, and they say, I love your work. I have this piece that I got years ago, and it's got a crack in it. First they ask, can you fix it? The answer is no. But then they say, well, could you make one for me? So hopefully this has given you a better understanding. My friend said that she had no idea how much went into it, because I showed her the layout that I was bringing to the studio before I started making the mugs. So hopefully that's given you some insight. I'm only speaking for me and my experience as a potter. I've only been doing this for 13, 14 years. So I feel like master potters would be able to look at something and reproduce it on site, just like a master musician would be able to reproduce a piece of music on hearing it once. But I'm not there yet. I need to practice, and I need to really develop the feel for the form in order to feel confident in making something for you that is going to be functional, not too heavy, not too light, something that's going to respond well to the color. So if I say no to your request, that's kind of what it's all based on. So thank you for hanging out with me, and if you have any questions, let me know. I will get back to you. And I'm going to go and play with my handle die. There's probably going to be a follow-up about how this turns out. I'll share it with you if you're curious, if you're in suspense. So thanks. I'll talk to you later.